Alright, little emoji kids, it's story time. What book would you like me to read today?
I want to do the one about green eggs and ham. I want one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. I'm not sick.
I've got a story that's even better. Today, I'm going to be telling you about the difference between your credit score and your credit report and letting you know how credit got started in the first place. The best part of all is this book has no pictures. You get to follow along with your imagination. I want you to close your eyes as I take you back to 150 years ago. The setting is in Brooklyn, New York.
This was a time where everybody in the city knew and trusted each other. Let's say you were a carpenter back then. You made chairs, tables, everything that the townspeople used for sitting and eating. You needed the materials to make these chairs and tables, but you didn't have the money to pay for them up front. Because the clerk knew you, your parents, your grandparents, literally your whole family, you could get the materials you needed today and pay for them later after you made a profit by putting them on your tab. This system worked because the community was small and everybody trusted each other. You would be able to get all the materials you need to be able to make the best wood tables and chairs, because the store owner knew you'd be back next week to settle your debt. This system worked for a very long time. Then after the Civil War, a lot of people started moving from smaller towns into cities. This presented the store owners a problem. How would they know if a newcomer were to put their purchases on credit that they would eventually get their money back? Two brothers will come up with a solution that answers this very important question. Sales brothers will go around to different merchants and compile a list of everybody who paid for things on credit. They created a book to sell to store owners, which let them know who was trustworthy and paid their debt back. They created the first ever credit report. It's a pretty simple system. They had the name, occupation, and address of every Brooklyn resident, and next to that was a letter. If you had an A next to your name, that meant you always paid your debt right away and on time. If you had a B, that means that you always paid in cash. C meant that you always didn't pay your debt on time, and if you had an ampersand, that meant there's something that you should know about this person, come talk to us. This is what a credit report will look like 150 years ago. As time went on, different companies popped up and started collecting different information about people. The use of this information started to get out of hand. Landlords, insurance agencies, employers all could benefit from knowing a little bit about the people that they work with. Of course, back then, they could put whatever they wanted to about you in your credit report and you had no way to get that changed. There's even been a report of a lady unable to get a job because her credit report said that she was crazy. Now, thanks to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, there's a little bit more transparency in what goes into the credit report. So that's what we're going to talk about, the difference between your credit score and your credit report. Your credit score, also known as your FICO score, is a number that ranges between 300 to 850, which shows how reliable you are to pay back debt. Your credit report is a detailed breakdown of your credit history. Your credit score is made up of 5 weighted categories. 35% is your payment history, which means you pay back your debt on time and aren't late with any payments. 30% is your utilization rate. This is calculated by determining the total amount of credit that you have and what percentage of it that you use. A good rule of thumb when using credit cards is to never use more than 30% of your full credit limit. This makes banks nervous that they might not get their money back and it will negatively impact your credit score. 15% of your credit score is calculated by the length of credit history, which means how long you've had credit. 10% is new credit. Older accounts are better because they show that you're reliable. The final 10% of your credit score is made up by types of credit. So if you have a different mix of credit cards, student loans, mortgages, 10%, which isn't much, is calculated by having different types of credit. Your credit report, on the other hand, has basic identification information such as your name and address. Second, it has a list of all your credit accounts, like credit cards and loans. Third, it has your credit history, which is who you've paid, how consistently, and if there are any late payments. Fourth is the total amount of loans. And lastly, you have credit inquiries, which is a list of people or companies who have requested your credit info. Always remember, the better that your credit score is, the less you pay in interest on loans, because you'll typically qualify for a better rate than someone who has a lower credit score. Always remember this about your credit report: the fewer things that are on the report, the more important new inquiries become. Lastly, I'm going to cover where you can check your credit score and credit report. You can check your credit score at myfico.com for a small fee. You can check your credit report once a year for free at annualcreditreport.com. Now that you know the difference between your credit score and credit report and why they're important in your adult life, you can live happily ever after.
The end. Now that you know the difference between your credit score and credit report, you can use this information to make better financial decisions when you're big boys and girls. Doesn't that sound exciting?
Well, I don't feel so good. Oh no. Tough crowd. I'm never going to get invited to do another book reading ever again. Thanks for watching this video. Please do what every other person on YouTube tells you to do at the end of videos. For more information about credit and particularly credit cards, check out this next video.